At the beginning of the year, most of us make plans like, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll start this. We plan to start a new business, try to get a bit fitter, or develop a new skill. So many things we plan, but because we don't have a proper idea about how to actually start something, we just keep planning, but nothing ever really gets finished. Things don't always continue as planned, right? So I thought I could take a moment to share a few helpful tips with you based on my own experiences, tips that might help you not only start something new, but also stick with it, see it through to the end, and overall work on your own self development. We want to start, but we can't seem to do it. Basically, there are three main reasons for this. The first is fear. You're afraid that after starting, you might not actually be able to do it. Along with that, you worry about what people will say, whether this is really for you, or if you'll just be wasting your time. You go through 1,000 such thoughts, and because of that fear, you just don't start. The second reason is you don't even know what exactly you're excited to start. You're so caught up in the excitement that you don't set any specific goals or figure out how you'll proceed or what proper direction you need. Because you don't set those things, you end up not starting at all. And ultimately, you don't continue either. The third reason is the mentality or mindset of perfectionism. Perfectionism is such that unless something is absolutely perfect, you feel you can't do it. Like maybe you're thinking of starting on YouTube, but you're worried that you don't have a good camera or you don't have the right equipment or you wonder what others will say. You get caught up in this need for everything to be perfect. So today we'll look at how we can overcome these three obstacles when starting something new and how we can successfully get started with anything. How can this be done? There are many ways, but here I'll give you a 5-step solution that you can use. You'll be able to start something and gain from it. So if we move on to the 5-step solution, the first thing is that you need to set a clear goal. We'll discuss in detail what a clear goal is and what an unclear goal is, but overall, what you need to do is set a clear goal and then break that goal down into smaller steps. You need to break it down into a system and steps so you'll be much clearer, and that fear of having to do so many things in a day will go away. Then I'll talk about a rule called the 2-minute rule and show how we can apply it, as well as how to kill perfectionism. In the fourth step and in the fifth step, the most important thing is how to reward yourself, how that works. We'll discuss that too. Now let's look at the 5 steps one by one. The first is to set clear goals. What's the difference between a clear goal and an unclear goal? For example, if you look at the example on the screen, you're thinking, I'll learn boarding, I'll learn coding. That's an unclear goal. What's a clear goal? It's when you say, all right, next week I'll finish all the HTML tutorials and get a general understanding of it, making sure I really grasp the fundamental concepts and how they connect. This is a clear timeline related goal. This is your clear goal, something you can measure and track over time. For example, if you're thinking, all right, I want to become much healthier, that's an unclear goal because it's not specific or easy to measure. So, setting a goal like finishing all the HTML tutorials gives you a concrete target to work toward, and you'll know exactly when you've achieved it. So at the start of the year, if I say I'll try to get a bit fitter, that's an unclear goal. You need to be specific, like I'll walk for 30 minutes or 20 minutes every day. If I can't get up in the morning, I'll walk in the evening. I'll go for a walk 3 or 4 days a week. These are timeline based, very specific goals. These are clear goals. And this is the kind of goal you need to set. So here, I hope you can understand what a clear goal is and what isn't a clear goal. All right, moving on to the next part. What do we need to do in the next part? We need to break this goal down into tiny pieces so that it becomes much more achievable, much more realistic, and so that our brain thinks, okay, this is easy, really easy, I can do this. Otherwise, sometimes the brain thinks, no, this is too much. If your heart thinks that way, then you'll never be able to do it. It always tries to keep us in survival mode, meaning it wants to keep us alive and say no to things that are too difficult. So, for example, if our goal is, like we set the goal to finish the HTML video next week, to complete the entire HTML tutorial, then how can we break it down? We can divide it up. Like, let's say on day one, I'll watch the ones that are there. Like I'll see how to make a table. I'll work on that, meaning I'll break down the whole thing into a very clear timeline so that I know exactly what I'll do tomorrow, what I'll do the day after, and what I'll do today. That way, there's a very high chance I'll stay consistent with it and won't skip things. Next comes the third step, which is the 2-minute rule. The 2-minute rule is something like this. Maybe you're planning to do something, but today you just don't feel like it. At that point, tell yourself, okay, I'll do it for just 2 minutes. Suppose you're thinking, I'll learn the formatting tags, and maybe watching all the videos would take you an hour or even an hour and a half, but you don't feel like it. Still, you decide, I'll watch for just 2 minutes. What happens is that when you start for just 2 minutes, you'll notice you have a high sense of engagement. You won't just do it for 2 minutes, you'll end up doing it for much longer. The thing is, starting something is a bit difficult, but once you get going, you'll find yourself in the flow, gaining momentum. So, in most cases, even if you start for just 2 minutes, that's what happens. Just to follow the routine, you start with 2 minutes, or maybe you finish half an hour, and then you realize you've actually spent even more time. So, with the 2 minute rule, you have to remember that in your mind, just think, all right, I won't do the whole thing today. I'll just do it for 2 minutes. I'll just look at this tag for 2 minutes. Just sit down, and you'll see that gradually you start to gain momentum. All right, next, the fourth point is perfectionism. So, what happens here is, for example, I want to watch an HTML video, but I feel like I don't have the proper PC, or if I don't have a Mac, I won't get the development vibe, or I don't have a nice workstation. I keep thinking, once I have all these things, then I'll start. This kind of mindset, you have to break out of it. Whatever situation you're in, however things are, you have to start from there. All right? You can't be overly perfectionist. Just doing something is more important, okay? And, it's like, don't think that just by watching a few tutorials, you'll become a developer on the first day. On the first day, you'll just get an overview, then you'll watch again, and gradually you'll start to understand how things work bit by bit. So the longer you delay, that time will just be wasted. But you can't predict the day. You might just have a laptop, that's all. You can sit on your bed, start watching tutorials. There's no need to be a perfectionist thinking that, no, I'll set up a Pro Power setup first, then with a developer vibe, a mug of coffee in hand, I'll start. If you keep thinking like that, ultimately, you'll never actually get started. All right, if we move on to the fifth point, this one is quite important. Why is it important? Because our brain likes to experience pleasure. It enjoys that feeling of happiness. So what you can do is set up a reward system with some clear goals. As mentioned here, you set it in your mind that, okay, if I can finish all the HTML videos by next week, just like the previous example I gave, but I'm repeating it so it's easier for you to understand. If you think, if I can finish all the HTML videos, then I'll treat myself to biryani at Kachibai, or I'll go to a restaurant and have my favorite meal at 1 o'clock, or eat my favorite food at 1 o'clock. You might watch that thing, or maybe hang out with friends at 1 o'clock somewhere. You can set clear goals like this, and if you don't achieve them, then you won't do that thing. So you'll try to do that activity only after achieving your goal. And every time you reach a goal, try to give yourself some kind of reward. It doesn't have to be something huge. It's not like, if I finish this video, I'll buy a MacBook at 1 o'clock. No, just something that makes you happy. It's about giving your brain a proper signal about what makes you feel happy, yes, and it will keep bringing you back to that. It will push you towards learning, towards achieving each of your goals, because the brain always wants to experience that happy feeling again and again. And if you do it this way, you'll notice that you'll gradually become more motivated. It will increase little by little. Now, if we do a quick recap, what are we actually doing? First, we're setting a goal, and it has to be clear. Just setting it isn't enough. Then we'll divide that goal into tasks based on a timeline, strictly according to the schedule. Then what we'll do is, say, make a 2 minute call. Suppose today I don't really feel like doing what's on my list of rules, but for the sake of the 2 minute rule, I'll do it for just those 2 minutes so that I can gain some momentum. Then we'll try to shift our mindset a bit. We'll prefer doing something even if it's not perfect, rather than obsessing over making it perfect. Perfection will come gradually as we improve, but the key is to just get started. It's important to just do the initial version first, even if it's rough. Perfection will come later. After that, what we'll do is try to celebrate each achievement, no matter how small. If we move forward like this, we'll be able to start something, keep it going, and gradually get better at it. This way, we can move towards self-development. There are still 2 months left in this year, and next year you'll have even more plans. Now, try to approach every plan and every goal in this way. And if you do, you'll definitely do well. Also, you know from your own experience how you start something and at what point you usually stop. You can share these things with others as well. And we'll talk about the next topic next time. Bye.